heard that you had worked with, I think, Denzel and Will Smith, people like that.
So the first actor that I got a chance to work with, it was Will Smith.
Where your passion for filmmaking kind of started?
It started when I used to watch TV with my family members, especially on Thursday night. I would watch movies like The Goonies and Back to the Future. And we see all these young people acting and performing, and I just fell in love with it.
Hey everyone, welcome to The Build. This is a podcast where we discuss leadership, family, business, things of that nature. Today I've got Jon Ross with me. He's a director, filmmaker, someone that I've worked with in the past and now have the opportunity to get to know a little bit better via this interview. So to start, I'll just hand it over to you, Jon, if you want to introduce yourself.
Yeah. I'm Jon Ross. I'm a filmmaker from the south side of Chicago, and I've been doing it for about 27 years now. And so it just feels great to be able to live your dream, see something that you have in your head for all these years, see it kind of manifest itself and have success. And it's been pretty awesome, man.
Yeah, beautiful. I think to start, could you share where your passion for filmmaking kind of started over like on the south side of Chicago? Like maybe like when that started and how that kind of came about. I'd love to get a little insight into that.
Yeah, so it started when I used to watch TV with my family members, especially on a Thursday night. We used to have a Thursday night lineup of, even though I know he's not popular right now, but The Cosby Show, Different World, and things like that, right? And I would see the kids on TV, and I would watch movies like The Goonies and Back to the Future. And I would just see all these young people, just acting and performing. And I just fell in love with it. I come from a family of a lot of performers. A lot of them are into music. And we just like to have a good time. And so I come from a very big family, and we will just spend like a whole evening just joking around and entertaining each other and doing talent shows. And so that's where the original love came from, just being around that environment with the family and then watching these TV shows and saying, you know what, I can do it. I could be creative and I could tell my own stories.
Yeah, dang, that's cool. Yeah, I mean, from my side of things, I grew up. I mean, obviously we grew up in the construction business, but I was always had a little creative edge to me and doing like photography and filmmaking throughout high school and college. Never really worked out to where I wanted it to, and now I'm doing this. But it's always cool like getting to know people that did that and seeing where they're at now. So I think what were your biggest inspirations in terms of like filmmaking growing up in and around Chicago?
Yeah, so one of my biggest inspirations were just watching Denzel Washington work, man. Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro, Al Pacino, Angela Bassett, Lawrence Fishburne. It's just so many people that will watch. And how I knew I was kind of different and how I knew it was something I really wanted was not that I just watched them to be entertained, but I would watch them to learn from them. And then I'll watch behind the scenes and just kind of hearing how they got into character and just their mindset when it came to filmmaking. I fell in love with that. And so, again, I just would watch them. And in my heart, I knew I can do the same things. And I would listen to their stories because I just knew that if they figured it out, I can figure it out. And that's where the inspiration came from.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, yeah, I feel like whenever you see that someone did it and carved that path out and did it, that just makes you feel a million times better that you could for sure replicate it in some form. Maybe not to the level they did, but at least you could get on that path and go forward. You named like so many different people. Have you ever gotten the chance? I think from when I last talked to you, I heard that you had worked with, I think, Denzel and Will Smith, people like that. So like, what was that process like and getting to learn from them and being around them? I mean, I can't even imagine.
Yeah. So the first actor that I got a chance to work with, and even though I was just an extra on this one, so it wasn't like, big time role. But it was Will Smith. And I remember being on the set. It was in July, I want to say 2000, something like that. And on this day, it was like the coldest day of the year. And normally when you are like the big time actors on the set, after you film your scenes, you'll go back to your trailer while everybody's, set up cameras and stuff like that. But on this day, it was like really cold outside. And so Will, myself, an actor by the name of Joe Morton, Will stand in, and I think a couple of other people, we were in the gas station because we was from the gas station scene. And it just so happened that normally extras are supposed to go back to extras holding, but I just asked the PA, I was like, can I just stay here? I won't bother anybody. And here I am. There's Will Smith right there, and he gets everybody some donuts from Krispy Kreme. and warm milk, and we just sat there and we just started talking, and he just started spewing out everything that he experienced, everything he had gone through, and I was just sitting there watching him as a professional, and just how he just moved around the set. It was just an amazing thing to see, and I just took everything that I saw him do and just kind of replicated that. And that was the first time that somebody told me to go from in front of the camera to behind the camera. So before that, I was just striving to be an actor. Before that, I thought I was going to be the next Denzel Washington. But after meeting Will and just kind of hearing his story and him kind of telling me maybe you should get into producing, that totally changed the game for me.
That's cool. So like what has that journey been like going like making such a drastic change? Because I feel like I mean from my point of view, from my story, like going from wanting to do photography full time, freelance full time, wanting to do that post college, then making a drastic change into a completely different career path. Like I know there's different challenges and adjustments, and you get probably down on yourself and different levels of motivation. If you're making the right choice, if you're not making the right choice, things of that nature.
So up until that point, I was a working actor. Like, I never really had to audition for anything after my first audition. Excuse me. So I was doing very well. And so when, I got that advice, it was almost like starting all over again, right? Because here it is, you go from a situation of where you had to get, you started with auditioning, and I got that one audition and got the part. And then not to have to audition again because everybody knew how good I was. And now I have to start all over again and audition in a different way, which is audition from the skill set of being behind the camera. And so I wouldn't say that it was difficult. It was more so a thing of where it was like, okay, well, we have to start all over again. What does that look like? But once I got the information of what that looked like, I said, oh, I can do this. So, I was talking to my counselor at college because I went to Columbia College downtown. And he's like, yeah, we just got to start getting coffee and, sweeping trailers. I was like, well, that's easy money right there. I can do that, right? And so it just so happened that a movie was coming in town by the name of Barbershop 2. And he knew the producers because he had worked on Barbershop 1. And his name was Adam. He said, I can get you on Barbershop 2, but it's up to you to kind of, do the interview and kind of get on it yourself. And so I was like, bet, just send me there. And obviously I did. And it just went from me just being hungry because what I've learned over the years and right away is that when it comes to work, a lot of people don't want to work first and foremost. A lot of people don't want to work hard, secondly, right? And so when I got on the set, I saw that everybody's trying to be close to the stars or close to the producers, but nobody wanted to do the gritty work of getting a coffee, figuring out how to solve problems on the set that save money and things like that. And that's exactly what I did. So when I showed up on set, I showed up to work. And, I will always have a smile on my face. I will always, okay, if you tell me to get coffee, I'm not just going to get coffee. Let me find out who all likes coffee on the set and how they like it. And let's go make the coffee how they like it and have it to them before they even ask for it, right? Or if it came to snacks, who likes what snacks? And let's have it all the way, just waiting there for them. That way they don't have to leave the set, right? Which saves money. And so that's what it was for me. It was a daunting thing at first because I didn't know how to start all over. But once I figured out how to start all over, it just became easy because I was always taught to work hard and to go over and above everything. So that was a transition for me.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, I could even attest to that. Like our father has always worked extremely hard. Kind of the typical, stereotypical American dream. He came immigrated here 25 years ago, and now went from not knowing any English, having to grind for everything to building a 8-figure business.
Wow.
So I mean,
Kudos to him, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the stories are linear in that sense. So that's cool. But so getting into producing and doing all that, I mean, I guess my curiosity is where those first few projects, like how were those like, and where was like that breakthrough point in terms of getting it off the ground and then finally achieving some success and
So yeah, it started out with going behind the scenes first and kind of putting the idea out there to everybody that, the end game was being a producer. And so it went from just being a PA on a few sets and a few movies to commercials. And then as I started to get more jobs, I started to see very quickly that if you are really good at what you do at the price range that you're at, they're going to try to keep you there. And so I had to make a choice one day. It was when I had just gotten married, and my oldest son was on the way. And my wife said, this money, we need to make a more consistent dollar coming in because you're working sporadically, you're gone all day. This is not going to work. And I had a choice to go and work with everybody else on the road to perdition with Tom Hanks that came to Chicago,
Okay, yeah, yeah.
or just saying, no, I'm gonna wait for the producing job. And, I prayed about it, and I was like, okay, I think that I should not take the job. And so I called my guy up, and that offered me the job there. So now I won't be able to make it. I'm gonna have to wait for that producer's job. And ironically, like 2 weeks later, I got a phone call from this company called Urban Ministries, and they had a producer's job open. And so I went from not having a job, and 2 weeks later having a job producing. And kind of when everything kind of really broke through, was after like 5 years of being on that job. They gave me an opportunity to do a project on my own. And it just so happened to be the project that got me my Emmy nomination in 2014. But when we started it out, nobody knew, even myself, that it was going to be this a project that people will love. And so I was in Mississippi visiting my family because we had death in the family, and we were staying in a hotel in Cleveland, Mississippi. And there was a pamphlet on the table talking about this town of Mound Bayou, Mississippi. And my wife picked it up, and she's like, what is Mound Bayou? I said, I don't know what town this is, right? We're in Mississippi. So I called my grandmother up, and I asked her about it, and she just raved about this town. So when I got back to Chicago, I ended up calling the mayor, and ironically, I got right in touch with the guy, and we talked for like 2.5 hours. And it was right then and there I knew I wanted to do the project. Long story short, that was the only project that I kind of had a blank check for. They trusted me to doing it, and we did it. And a few years later, it kind of took off on TV, and that's how the Emmy nomination came.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what give me some like insight into that project. Like, what was the conception of that project or the concept behind it, and kind of the story that you told?
Yeah, so the Mount Bayou is it's a town in Mississippi that was governed by former slaves, and it was the first African American governed town that had a huge impact on the economy of America, and nobody knew about it. And so for me, it was like, okay, well, let's tell the story, right? And as we started to research and dive into the whole story of Mount Bayou, it was amazing because we never heard of this town, but it was so integral in American history, American business, right? And so a lot of cotton that Sears, Roebuck would get for their clothes that got it from Mount Bayou. People would come from all over the world to learn how to grow cotton in Mount Bayou. They had their own business district. It was so many great things, and a lot of political figures when they were in Mississippi, they would go down to Mount Bayou and stay there. And so it was just a great story that we fell in love with, and it just kind of came together. And it totally changed my life doing that documentary, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. So I mean, how did it feel like being able to tell that story that you're so passionate about and that leading to an Emmy nomination? Like how did it feel? Going from like you said, going from acting, career change, doing this major documentary, and then I mean, an Emmy nomination, that's huge success that not very many people get to
Yeah,
achieve in their lives, and you did it, and that's awesome.
yeah.
Kudos to you.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's weird because I tell people that every accomplishment I have, I've dreamed about it, right? So I've lived in it in my head every morning, every afternoon, every night. I always dream about where it is that I want to go, who I want to meet, what accomplishments I want to have, and I just take my mind there. And so it was almost surreal having these moments happen because I had already seen it in my head, and it was kind of like an outer body experience because like, wow, this is happening exactly like I saw it in my dreams, right? So even like the red carpet interview, it was like I've had this conversation in my head for so many years and it's actually happening. And so it was just like an out of body experience type of moment, but it was great. And the weird thing about it is that it's like, it happens and like it feels like it only lasts for like 15 seconds and then it's over with. And the question is, okay, what's next? And I think that's more difficult to, or at least at that time, that was more difficult to kind of mentally perceive, okay, what is next than it is the actual, and achievement and celebration of it. The what's next is a scary part because up to that point, that's the thing that you're dreaming about. That's the thing that you're excited about. That's the thing that gets you up and wake you up in the morning to work hard to kind of see everything through. And then it's over with, and it's like, okay, I got to start over again. okay, what does this look like? Yes, I know I'm a producer, but I have no projects because this was my dream and my passion for so many years, and it's done. I think the only great thing about it is that when you do something, you know you can do it again. And so, even though it was a daunting thing to start over again, the excitement was, okay, whatever it is, I know I can have success in it. We just have to figure that thing out. And so it just took me time to figure out what the next thing was. But once we figured it out, it was just like, okay, I can breathe again and let's do something. And come to find out it was something, even though it was in film, it was a totally different experience that I would have ever thought about doing when we moved on to the next project.
It's crazy, like when you envision like the achievement and then you do it and then I feel like you feel immediate like you feel empty right after. It's like I hit that high and then it's like, oh shoot, now like what's next? And you're always like craving something more. You mentioned uh in regards to Mountain Bayou and that the producing job, like you're praying about it and that leading that. So I mean, how is faith interwoven through your story, your career?
Yeah, well, I was born and raised in a church, so that was like a non-negotiable with my grandmother who raised me. Well, one of my grandmothers raised me. I was raised by both my grandparents. But every Saturday morning, every Sunday, we had to do church, and you couldn't go outside and play with your friends until you did church, right? And so that was the solid foundation that my grandmother's got me. And then, over the years, you start growing your own personal relationship you have, right? And I think one of the cool things about my situation, because we grew up extremely poor, and I'm the youngest child in the family. And so when everybody else was gone, it was just me. And so you have a lot of this time kind of being alone and kind of searching for yourself. And I think that's the thing that I've enjoyed when it comes to my faith is that, I've had the opportunity to seek him, reading or whether it's through prayer
Yeah.
and test a lot of the things that I would read, right? And so when it came to, God being a provider, I didn't just read that, right? Like I saw it happening, in real time, right? When I, talk about he can be a comforter or he can be your father, your mother. I experienced those things firsthand. And so I grew a very trusting relationship with God very early on. So when it came to accomplishing things, it wasn't a struggle mentally for me because I had a solid foundation of faith. I think that my faith got challenged once I became a father and became, a husband or a businessman who had people that were relying on you for money. That became challenging because it's like, okay, God, I know you can do it for me, but me and all of them, that's a big thing to think about. And I think even like to this day, it's one of those things of where I think God uses that to keep me humble, because sometimes I could say being a young man and having that strong faith and strong relationship with them, I kind of took it for granted. But God has always allowed me to be in situations where, he reminds me of who he is and why I should be humble about those things. But I use my faith all the time in order to accomplish the things I feel like he wants me to accomplish. So
No, it's so beautiful, man. And now I think like you've told me a lot from the beginnings to how you got to different places you got to now where you are now. But I guess having achieved so much, what is that next thing, the next step now? Like what keeps you motivated to keep going and not sit back and get sort of lazy and things like that? Because I feel like it's easy when you achieve so much to kind of like put your foot off the gas and just chill.
yeah, yeah. So for me, it's multiple things. So just like being a successful filmmaker was very important to me. Being a father and a husband has been just as much as a thing that I look to God to give me success in, right? And so you said, what does that look like? So, in the future, like my son now, who's here right now, he's trying to get into photography. It's invested in him, helping him understand what the dream is and how God allows things to come together, right? Or my other son, he runs track. So he's about to go to Benedictine University this upcoming fall. But it's also being there for him and being there. Or my daughter, who has given me a grandson, you know what I mean, which is pretty dope, right? To be a grandfather. It doesn't seem like a grandfather. But being the best father figure to both of them, my grandson and my daughter. And and being a good husband and being available to my wife. So that's what the future looks like for me from a personal standpoint. But from a career standpoint, I really do want to create a movie. I can't go into it right now because I don't want to put up my secret
Yeah,
sauce just
yeah,
yet, right?
yeah.
But I just shared this with my son on the way here. I have a goal that with the next project, I want to be able to win an Emmy, an Oscar, and a Grammy, all for the same project.
Yeah, that's big.
Yeah, so it's huge, right?
Right.
So I want to have the story is it's a historical story, but I want to have a documentary out about it, a soundtrack out that's just as big as the movie, and then the movie come out later on in the same year, and get nominated and win every award for each department. So that's the big goal for the next couple of
Yeah,
years.
that's huge, man. I mean, like what? Because I feel like when you set your expectations for yourself so high, but like what stops you from just giving up at that point? Because obviously those are huge goals to achieve, and not very many people achieve them. But I mean, as just in our conversation now, and from other times I've heard you speak, I know you got extreme confidence in yourself, and you've achieved things. So, I mean, there's no stopping you. But yeah, what does keep you going and not, because I'm sure doubt and fear and things like that, that's natural.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it comes, but it's I think history helps out a lot, knowing that just the thought of being in the same room with like Will Smith and these guys, or Ice Cube or Denzel Washington a couple of years ago, right? It was a big thing for me to even reach that status coming from the South Side of Chicago, right? But I see that with God's help, it has already happened, right? And I can even remember like I started a non for profit maybe like 7 years ago, somebody's nobody, and to see the success that has had, even though we're not doing it at this very moment right now as of today, but I'm thinking about the lives that project impacted, where you're talking about a guy like Dimitri Morris, who we have mutual
Yeah.
connection with. I met him when he was 15 years old, and he was one of the first people that was a part of that program.
Oh, wow.
Fast forward years later, as the best man in his wedding, and then him being 30 under 30 with Forbes, right? All those
Right.
things, right?
Doing big things.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, it came from that little bitty idea, right? And he's just one story, right? There's multiple stories of other people who are living their best life. I don't want to say that that I'm the one that made it happen, but to be a part of that story, right, is the great thing about it. And so it's like, okay, if I can come from the South Side of Chicago and do that, and when it comes to film, or if I can come up with this idea of, okay, I got to get back somehow, so let me start somebody's nobody, and it has success. And even now, where it's like, okay, I wanted to spend my son's high school years being presently there. And so that meant taking on smaller projects, right? But any smaller projects, being able to be connected with like great people, to be able to work with just some great names in the industry right now. It's like, okay, that gives me the confidence and all of the what you call it, motivation I would need to say, you know what? Now these big dreams, they seem so small. Let's dream even bigger, right? And let's really kind of test out my faith on an even bigger scale. And I think that's where the motivation comes from, because I'm just not satisfied. I mean, I guess I would say it like this: is that I'm not satisfied until I figure out everything this body and this mind can do on the face of this earth.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's huge.
And I remember hearing a quote from Quincy Jones. He says that when I leave here, rest his soul, he said, when I leave here, I want the earth to know that I was here. And I think that is the biggest motivation I have, is that I want, when Jon Ross leaves the face of this earth, the earth knew I was here. You know what I mean? And so that's the motivation.
Yeah, that's huge. I mean, right. 'Cause you got one life, so like why not go as big as you possibly can and impact as many people as you possibly can, and see what you can do. I mean, I think that's cool. I want to touch on somebody's nobody's a little bit. I know from things I've heard from Dimitri about it, I've heard a lot of positive stories, but like what does it feel like that you were able to start an organization like that and be used in so many people's lives and impact them, and seeing like the seeds that you planted where they ended up now.
It's worth more than money, man. I can tell you. So like the seed of it started out when I was teaching acting at this modeling agency called John Casablancas. And when I came there, I was scared because I had never spoken to anybody, right? And they put me in a classroom with a lot of, I call them my senior people, right? And so they were like 55 and up. And to see them totally engaged in what I was saying, that just blew my mind, right? And then once I had success with that class, they started giving me like a whole bunch of another classes, and then before you know it, that place will be packed out. You couldn't even get in there sometimes because people came to hear me speak, and to see those lives impacted by what I was saying, and God just uses me. So I don't take any credit for any of that, right? Like this is God using me, right? Um, that gave me the motivation to do somebody's nobody's, but it's to be not just with the lives that came through somebody's nobody's, but just the lives that I've been able to touch just throughout these years. It's a really humbling thing. It's a great feeling. Don't get me wrong. It's like it's great. And I was talking to Dimitri about this the other day. I said, but you don't feel worthy of it, right? It's like I'm just John. Like I'm just the kid from South Side of Chicago trying to figure out life like everybody else, living their dreams like everybody else, right? But to know that I've been able to play a part in helping people get motivated and they find direction in life is a humbling thing. I thank God for it. You know what I mean? And it makes my life feel full. It gives me more enjoyment than money gives me. And I'm not just saying that to sound great. I'm saying that because that's how it really feels. It feels great to know that you have helped somebody at least be motivated to do something great in life.
No, that's beautiful, man. That's awesome. Well, I mean, I've learned so much in this last half hour just hearing your story and hearing the pivotal parts of it and things like that, and I can definitely say like I'll be able to apply some of that to my life and my career and the things that I'm doing. But
I appreciate that.
yeah, so I think just to close here, what I think we can go two things I want to touch on. What first off, like what's some advice you could give young people like me that are starting out in a career, young creatives, or whoever it might be about their journey and their work and their passions.
Yeah. Yeah. So the advice I can give is first thing, allow yourself time to dream and just live in it. When things become your reality, it totally changes everything. It changes your decision making. It changes your mood. It changes everything. But it's to sit in it every day. The next thing is to write it down. The moment that you think about it and you write it down, it is now a reality, right? And then the third thing is speak about it with somebody. It's amazing how when you throw an idea out there or a dream out there, how fast God could send people your way to aid you in to get that thing to reality, right? And then I guess the last thing is just to do. Like don't I think people have to change their mindset and the perception of pain and stuff like that. Like pain is how you know that you're working the muscles to get where you're trying to go to, right? But understand that you got to pay a price of pain to get through it, right? Whether it's discomfort in finances, sleepless nights because you're trying to meet a deadline. It comes with the territory, but once you just kind of push through it, there's this enjoyment that you can never take away from yourself, right? Like I just think about how often I'm dreaming and I give myself time to dream and I give myself time to write it down and speak about it. It is it's amazing how reality literally changes at that moment to aid you in that. And it's no, like somebody told me about this before, that if you put an acorn into the ground and you water it, it vibrates at a speed so fast your eyes can't see it, but it's attracting everything that it needs to it, and nothing can stop it. Like you can put stuff in between it, it'll just shoot right through and get to that seed. And it's the same thing when you start speaking it and you start to have that positive mindset about it and going towards it. Nothing can stop you from accomplishing that goal but yourself. And that will be my advice, which is dream it, write it down, speak it, and then do it. And it's not a matter of if it's going to happen; it's just a matter of time of when. So
That's awesome. That's beautiful.
mhm.
Well, I thank you for coming here and having a conversation with us and just sharing so many great things and giving us advice. So, well, that has been another episode of The Build Up. Thank you, John. See y'all next time.